7th-round pick fall on the prospect list. Also, Josh Mahura has been very good for Regina. How many puck-moving demon can the Ducks carry? I'll let you take that because you're more privy to the Ducks prospects than I am.
Yeah, Tyler Soy is an interesting player because he did have – I'm going to pull up his numbers real quick. He did have a strong season with Victoria this year. He had 92 points in 66 games. So he was sitting in 13th in the league scoring, which you would normally say, well, that's great from any player. But he is an overager. This was his 5th full season in the WHL. You know, he's expected to produce that level, especially for a playoff team like Victoria is. So I'm not ready to put him up high on the list. I feel like he's done himself some favors by continually playing well, and this was his highest point total of his whole career in the WHL. I'd like to see more from him and what he can do in San Diego because he's been there for a bit at brief times where he hasn't looked that great, and he's kind of looked behind the play. So we'll see obviously more from him next year when the only place he can go is San Diego because this was his last season in the WHL. So I'm not ready to put him above some guys. I feel like he's definitely below the 4 I'd already mentioned today. I think he's below Antoine Morand as well. So he's kind of further around maybe 6th or 7th on the forward depth chart. But he can really make a difference next year if he plays well in San Diego. As for Josh Mahura, I think this is an interesting one because he had a good season. Him and Sam Steele both had a good season for Regina, and it's always nice seeing these two guys play together because they just seem to link up on a lot of plays, which obviously is really exciting for Ducks fans because they're both Ducks prospects. But yeah, I mean, the jury I think is still out on him. I mean, he had 69 points in 60 games this year with Regina, which is great for defensemen. Huge step up from when he had 53 points in, I believe it was 73 games last year. So he took a huge step forward on a team that wasn't as good as they were last year. So I don't know, because he reminds me a bit of when Chase Theodore came out of Seattle, and there was a lot of hype around him because of the offensive prowess he had in the WHL, and of course he's turned out to be a really good defenseman in the National Hockey League, so I'm not ready to put maybe Josh Mahura at that same level, but I think he plays the same style of play, where he's got the offensive numbers in junior. It's just now to see if they can move over to the pro level. I think that's the tough thing with offensive defensemen is some guys look like they can light the world on fire in junior, and then they come over to the AHL, the NHL, and the points really fall off. So that's going to be the big challenge for him. I mean, he's probably still in the WHL next year, so we might not see him with the Gulls. But I think that's the real talking point for him is if that offense can progress into the next level.
All right, so what do we got on Twitter and Reddit?
So we got a bunch of questions today. It was great from everybody that turned out. So I'll go with Reddit right now because that's the quickest thing I have open on my phone. So we had Rufio says Bangarang on Reddit, who has a 2-part question. He said, judging by how much our roster is up in the air heading into the offseason, how many rookies do we see making the team heading into next season? And what's our boldest predictions for a current roster player who's a pending free agent that we let walk? So we'll take the first question. I don't know if you want to take it. I know you don't focus a ton on the prospects like you just said, but if you had to pick a rookie next year, who do you see making the team? You can include Troy Terry in that as well.
A rookie making the team?
Yeah.
That's so tough just because of what we've been talking about, that the Ducks' top 9 forward group. Yeah. For a long time. I mean, I guess a long time. 10 games we've done now. It just seems like a long time. But I really liked Sam Steele and Max Jones in training camp, and I know Steele has really done well his last 2 seasons. Shoot, that's a tough one, man. I really feel like it's all about what they do with Nick Ritchie.
Yeah. Because
I feel like they're going to give Kasha another chance because he's got the speed of like a Cogliano who can really make plays happen. He has more of a finishing ability than Cogliano, so I feel like he's more valuable than Nick Ritchie. Mm-hmm. So if I were to slot somebody in, though, man, I would have to. I mean, honestly, I would have to go with Max Jones. That would be the guy I'd want to see step up. He's got the same. He's got the same frame and size. Although I know he's younger than Nick Ritchie, so he doesn't have that experience. But he also can move. He's a great player.
Yeah.
I feel like he was looked past and incorrectly so in the draft, and the Ducks got a lucky one there. So I'd like to see him slot in with the Ducks.
Yeah, I would honestly, I would tend to agree with you, and I feel like he would be that guy. The only thing that's kind of holding me back on Max Jones is he had surgery on his finger this season, hasn't played a game at all for Kingston, or I think he played maybe one game since he got traded there. They're in the playoffs right now. He's projected to come back in the second round. Hasn't played a lot of hockey. And he's eligible to play for San Diego next year. I think it all depends on how well he does in camp, and then maybe we see him, because I feel like if he has a strong camp, he's probably the best shot. I don't see any center, so I don't see Sam Steele really making it, because you've got Kessler, you've got Henrique and Getzlaf all in front of him, and I feel like they want to see what he can do at center in a pro level before they push him to the wing, so I feel like he probably goes with the goals to begin that season as well. For me, it comes down to Max Jones and maybe Troy Terry. And I feel like just because of the injury that Max Jones has been struggling with, I feel like Troy Terry's probably the most likely guy to make the roster next season. And a lot of that fringes on how well he plays if he gets a chance with the Ducks this year, or even how well he plays with San Diego. So I feel like he's definitely got the edge if you had to pick any of the prospects coming up. If you want to go on defense, quick mention to Jakob Larsson as well, because I feel like he's definitely a guy that still is considered a Ducks rookie because he's barely played any time for them whatsoever. He's a guy we're all waiting for to see come up, and I think with Boschman and Bieksa coming off the roster potentially, there's a spot for him next year. To answer the second part, it was heading into next season, what's your boldest predictions for a current roster player who is a pending UFA that we'd let walk? Who do you think we let go? Bold prediction.
I mean, we went down that list before of who we would like to see them just let walk. Yeah. I definitely see, the likes. This is the easy way out for me, but you're going to see Antoine Vermette not come back. You're going to see Boschman not come back. Chimera, Chris Kelly, JT Brown. I would hope they give him a chance, but they haven't played him really at all.
Yeah.
So he's probably not coming back. A big one that they could see walk, I don't really think you're going to see a big name walk. There's really no one that's going to shock anybody if they don't come back, unless it's like a Kasha or Nick Ritchie, or Brandon Montour. And there's no way in hell they're letting Brandon Montour walk. That's just not going to happen. I would be shocked if they let Nick Ritchie just go away. He's an RFA. Yeah. You have his rights. You're going to get something for him. Of the UFAs, man, nothing would surprise me. None of those guys surprise me as a UFA, right? I mean, none of those guys are going to move the needle all that much. I just don't see it happening with a regular UFA. The RFAs are a different story. You can't let those guys walk. But to be traded, I would be shocked to see Andre Kasha traded. That's my pick. If I'm going to turn that question into a little bit more of what we would see, I'd be shocked if Kasha was traded. Yeah,
that's where I was going to go with it too. Is I don't see any of them, essentially just walking, but I could see possibly a trade if the Ducks were trying to make this team better, where teams would be asking about Andre Kasha, and I think that would be, if you had to make a bold prediction of a guy not being back, I think Andre Kasha would tick the needle for being a bold prediction. And then Nick Ritchie, again, like we've already discussed, if they can package him in a deal, if a guy like Troy Terry comes in this season and impresses, then you have the the ability to move him possibly out of the lineup. So I think it would have to center around those two, because the UFAs, I mean, we wouldn't be surprised to see any of them let go. I mean, Vermette's barely played. Chris Kelly, Jason Chimera dealt their back. JT Brown hasn't played at all. Kevin Bieksa, that's up in the air, but if he goes, I don't think we're surprised. If he signs a one-year deal, I don't think it's a surprise either. So I think it all centers around those, specifically those two, RFAs and Kasha and Ritchie.
We don't really see any of guys going anyway, so
yeah, exactly. A couple comments on a rookie thing. Dean was saying Sherwood for sure, Kiefer Sherwood, who actually had an overtime winner for the goals in his debut, which was insane. Phil talking about Nick Cardillis, who really hasn't ever got a true chance with the Ducks. Every time he's been called up, he's essentially been put on that fourth line. He's a guy that we've all kind of been waiting to see get a good shot with the Ducks. So just because we're getting late in here, we still have a bunch of questions, so we're going to try and rip through them a bit. No Me Gusta on Reddit. The Reddit names are just great today. He says, why does Perry's voice not match his face?
Oh, man. What does he mean by that? Is his voice...
I don't know, because I feel like it's not too far. Yeah.
I got to know what direction he's going with that before I make a comment on that.
I feel like his voice isn't too far off what you'd expect from him, but
it's not like it's this high squeaky voice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would assume he's a Ducks fan because he's on the Anaheim Ducks Reddit, but I feel like we'd have to get into that. I mean, if he's listening, I want to hear more about this on the next show. I want like a full explanation of what you're expecting from Corey Perry's voice.
If we're going to take a deep dive into a question like that, we got to know the context.
Yeah. Turnaround 08. Again, asking thoughts on Troy Terry's situation now that Denver is eliminated. We've covered that, but I wanted to throw the question out there. I think, and I believe you believe, or at least hope, that he gets a shot in the next coming games, at least with the Ducks, if not with San Diego.
Yep.
Burnt Paper, a podcast question. Are you guys ever going to get on Spotify? Because that's his platform of choice for listening.
Yes, we will. We'll be there. I'm going to submit it tomorrow morning first thing. I just found out that they could even have a podcast on Spotify, so yes, it'll be there for sure.
So props to Burnt Paper for now enabling us to look up to get on Spotify, because otherwise we wouldn't have thought about that.
Absolutely.
Now I gotta dig through Twitter here to find the other questions. We had a few on Twitter. Garrett saying, how many more points do you think we need to get into the playoffs with, 6 games remaining now?
Oh, shoot. I mean
there's a number. There's an actual
I think they need
number,
10 of the 12. I mean, just at this point, with the way how close this has been, I mean, the Blues have come back on strong, right? I mean, you don't want to let anything slip through their fingers. They're at 91, Colorado at 90, St. Louis at 89, and the Kings at 89. That's too dangerous to lose a game. Yeah. But you got to throw them that they're going to lose one. I feel like they're going to lose 1 or 2. Hopefully they don't. I mean, we always want them to win out, but I feel like they need to get, man, if I'm going to be nice, 8 to 10 points to make a difference.
And specifically, you need those wins against LA and Colorado. Right. I mean, you could win 3 of those 6, but if you pick up those wins against LA and Colorado, you probably still make it. Or it's close, but you probably still do, because those are 4-point games. And especially the game against the Kings, which is the big one. So I feel like you're right. I think you got to win at least 4 of the 6 to get in for sure. So that would put the Ducks at 99 points if they won those 4 games. Just to make it a magic number, I would say, I guess the Ducks probably need 100 to just solidify themselves in. So that's like a 4-1-1 record in their next 6 games, which would be great, and I think they'd get in. But it all comes down to that Kings game. If you lose the game against the Kings, you better hope that you win the other 5.
Yeah, and Chris Smith in our chat just said that Colorado still has games against LA and St. Louis. So those are all big games coming down the stretch here.
Continuing the trend on Twitter, Kyle Pickering just kind of a comment said, too bad Gibson has this team playing in front of him. That was at the end of the second period. So he was feeling, everybody was feeling at the end of the second period, down 3-1. So I can't get too hard on him for that question. Sammy talking about what we've already said. He said he could see Troy Terry slotting in with Kasha and Henrique, maybe putting Richie on the 4th line. We've had a couple people talking about that. He asked our thoughts on that. We've given them already, but I just wanted to get the question out there. I feel like that's probably his best fit right now.
Absolutely, man. I agree with you 100%.
I'm doing some real digging here on Twitter, because we had questions from different tweets, and I gotta dig through the mess here of all our notifications from.
We need a producer to go in and grab all of our stuff. Anybody want to volunteer to be our content producer for questions?
I feel like Gordon Bombay is probably on that right now in the chat. I'm not even looking at the chat, but I feel like he's probably on that right off the bat. Okay, so Kyle, this is 2 hours ago. So again, this was middle of the second period. Had a bunch of questions. He said, "Why are the Ducks choking?" So this again, this question was asked at the end of the second period. Will they make the playoffs? Wasn't Randy Carlyle hired supposed to fix the defensive breakdowns and chokes? And he was saying, but Bruce Boudreau wasn't good enough. Bunch of questions mixed in there. I guess they're not necessarily relevant anymore, because the Ducks ended up coming back and winning the game. So, but I feel his pain. I think we all feel his pain. We were all pretty disappointed at the way the game was going at the end of the second period.
No, I'd agree too. We were all upset about that, and it's so easy to point the finger here and there. The players got to come through. and wake up a bit and play hockey, because they did it in the third period. Whatever they did in that between the second and third intermission, it worked. Eric Stevens, the Ducks beat writer, said nobody would say what was said in between periods, but whatever it was, it worked.